We interviewed Superintendent Kate Anderson, and here's what she had to say about being on the force.
What's your favourite part of your job?
Oh gosh, there are so many bits. The teams that you work with are wonderful. The people that you work with are brilliant. I didn't know anybody who was in the police before I joined. I had very little engagement with the police at all before joining the service. And the people really are wonderful. I think sometimes it can be really challenging to share all of the wonderful things we do. But just as an example, on the Peterborough Facebook page over the last week, a couple of officers had put on there, they had gone out to a medical emergency to help a woman who was having a seizure with paramedics. They went to her home address and realised that actually she was really struggling. Her and her family were struggling in terms of food availability, and they had a young baby who's 1 year old, who was 1 year old, and their birthday had been last week. And they thought, well, you know, what are we going to do about this? So they went to the food banks and they sort of started getting food for her and nappies for the baby, took all those things to her house, and then they went to a local toy shop, and from their own money they bought toys for this kid for their 1 year old birthday. And you just think, we work with some really, really brilliant people, and I'm not sure we always share how great they are and how skilled they are. So I think that's one thing, is the team working, because they're really, really brilliant. I think as well the communities are amazing. So for example, we've got a really proactive and supportive joint mosque committee here, who are incredibly kind and generous, and they invited us to the iftar last year, the year before, must have been the year before because of COVID. And myself and a number of other partner agencies were invited into the mosque to go and kind of share the breaking of the fast with them and to speak to them about all of the amazing community work that they're doing. And I just think it's the people that make the job really, really worthwhile. Both the people that you meet externally and the people internally really kind of genuinely give me so much joy when you meet them and you see all the amazing work that they can do.
Do you think there's a good balance of genders in policing?
I think that the gender balances in policing are better than they were 20, 30 years ago, but probably aren't still where we would want them to be. I think that it's fair to reflect that we're not yet as representative as we could or should be, and that the service suffers as a consequence of that, because actually I think the more we represent the people that we're there to help, the better job we can do at discharging our duties, really. So I think we've come a long way. I think that it's interesting, there's a really good report that you can read by he for she online, and that talks about how we're kind of doing better, I think, on the front line. So constables coming through, we tend to see a much more diverse mix of people and mix of genders coming through. But I think at the more senior ranks, it's still tricky. And it may be that it takes time for things to filter to the more senior ranks. So actually, you know, if you look at somebody's career spanning 35 years in the police, it may take quite a long time for people to get through to those roles. But I also think there are some other things that mean that it's harder perhaps for people either from certain backgrounds or certain genders to get into certain positions, but the organisation is working really hard to try and improve that. So I went on a leadership course run by the College of Policing probably about 2 or 3 years ago, talking about the assessment centres for chief officers and how they had spread those across a number of different days of the week and tried to have some earlier finishes for people, because they recognised that actually the really late finishes and things were causing barriers for some people with childcare needs and things like that. So there are things that we're still doing to work and improve it. It's very much a work in progress, but we're moving in the right direction generally, I think it's fair to say.
What would you say to a young person who wanted to get into policing?
That they should absolutely do it. I think obviously things are challenging at the moment because of COVID. But normally we do allow people to come on what are called opt-in sites. So that's where people who are adults can sign up to say they want to come and spend a day out on shift with people, seeing what the job's like. And I would definitely encourage people to do that, to see what, get that insight into it. For a number of people, I think they probably haven't really got an idea in their head about what policing day to day is actually like, because we can all watch TV shows. Famous and Fighting Crime, I'd recommend. That was here at Peterborough. There are TV shows like that that help people get a bit of an insight, but they do tend to be edited to show probably the more exciting parts of the job, I think it's fair to say. So it's worth doing things like that, really, just to open your eyes to what the roles are, and also the diversity of roles that are available, because actually it's not all driving around in fast cars. A lot of it is actually about going out, working with our communities, problem solving, helping people who are really vulnerable. It's such a rewarding job, and I think until you really see the breadth of roles that are available, it's hard to know exactly where you're going to fit in, because you might look at it and think, well, I'm not sure I fit that mould, or I'm not sure I fit that mould. And I think, well, break the mould, do something different, that's great. But also, probably there are roles in the organisation that you haven't considered that might align really closely to the skills that you've got. So definitely worth considering. It's a brilliant career.
Do you need to go to sixth form or university to join the force?
So at the time that I joined, I believe you didn't need A levels, and I certainly joined with a number of people who had professional experience from elsewhere. So I joined with a gentleman that retired from the army. I joined with a paramedic, like I said earlier, a woman who'd been a witness care officer. Really interesting people from different backgrounds, and everybody had done something different and brought completely different things to it. And the good thing is now they're still looking at trying to make sure we recruit people from a variety of different backgrounds and a variety of different experiences. But what you'll find is if you join from school, if you join from university, there are different entry routes now. So you can join, for example, on the police education qualifications framework, where you're supported in getting the relevant qualifications whilst being paid to be in work. So you're studying alongside being a police officer. And there are also going to be people who come in that have already got qualifications, so they can join on that entry route. And then we're also offering things for people that have, for example, already got management experience elsewhere. So some forces will offer direct entry inspector or fast track to inspector schemes for people that have been, for example, managers in a retail setting or something like that, where they've got some of the skills but just then need to transfer it across into a police environment. So I think when I joined, there was just that one entry route, really, but now it's diversified a lot more. But I think people's educational attainment shouldn't necessarily be a barrier, but it just might mean that they're asked to spend a little bit more time or to do a different qualification when they're on that journey.
What would be your message to young people?
Oh gosh, that's an interesting question. Well, I suppose my message would be to young people generally would be that you can make a difference, you can make a positive change, you can be involved in something that's really, really important, and everybody's got a role to play in that, and it's thinking about where you fit in it. So when you've got individuals that don't like the way something's happening, or you think an organisation can change or be better, then you need to be part of it to make that change happen. So, the police service don't get things right 100% of the time, but actually, if you want to be part of that change, you need to be involved in it and actually try and make that progress. So, and this isn't just about the police service. I think generally, if you look at something and think actually maybe banking could be done differently, or maybe if the MP should do X, Y, Z, then do it, be part of it and try and change it from within. Because I genuinely think you'll probably find there's far more people that have joined for similar reasons to you and that want to make a really positive difference than the opposite. And at the moment, the position that you're in terms of having that time to try different careers and actually see if they work, and if they don't, you can try something else, and that sense of moving profession mid-career is far more normal now than it would have been kind of 30-40 years ago. So actually you're in a really good position to try something, and you know what, if after a few years it's not for you, try something else. You haven't lost anything, because even if you move to another role, you'll bring something really valuable with you. And I think about, I joined with a paramedic when I first started. And I remember him saying to me that he loved being a paramedic. He said, but he found it really tricky because they were going out to jobs all the time. And he was thinking, do you know what? Maybe if I got here earlier, this person wouldn't have been assaulted. Or maybe if this person had been dealt with earlier, they wouldn't have had this road traffic collision, which is why he ended up joining the police. But with that, he brought all of this amazing medical knowledge, his skills and experience of dealing with the public. You know, none of that was wasted time. That all just made him a better police officer.
Lovely. And a final thing, we wanted to say congratulations on making superintendent.
Oh, that's very sweet of you both. Thank you.